So I'll start up and right now. All right. Hello. Welcome to Man in the Arena. This is the inaugural episode. Welcome to Man in the Arena. This is the inaugural episode. The pilot episode.
From the pilot.
My name is Joshua Woods.
Sorry.
My name is Joshua Woods. Going to be hosting this podcast. It's my first time doing something like this. It's a bit of a passion project of mine, but I'm hoping that it transforms into something worth listening to by a wider audience. So today being the first podcast, I guess I'll give you guys a little bit of background on it. And I'll go into this probably in the actual episode 1. But essentially, this is sort of an open diary that I'll be sharing between, obviously, myself and the listeners here. Over the past 6 months, I've been on a self-improvement journey, and I've been listening to a lot of folks who kind of have the formula down to some level. Obviously not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but they've got it down to a proficient level to the point where they can sort of distill some of this information to the general populace. So the objective I have with this podcast, in a sort of nutshell, is to sort of document my journey towards self-improvement. And that'll take the form of many things, from doing book reviews, analyzing things in pop culture, or just rambling on about whatever, or, as in this case, inviting folks I know on as guests to sort of talk about some specific qualities that I see in them that I wish to improve upon in my life. So I want to dissect their minds. With that being said, I am happy, honored, and proud to produce a man who I've come to know as my brother, Stefan McCall. We've known each other this year about 15 years. So I'm 26. We met first year of middle school way back in 2004.
We were 11.
And throughout my time knowing Stefan, huh?
Sorry, I go ahead. I shouldn't start. Go ahead.
No, you're all good. And throughout my time knowing Stefan, obviously we've seen each other just sort of grow up into like the men we are today. And something I want to focus on with Stefan today is habits, because over the past, especially I say 5 or so years, he has really nailed down some excellent habits. And I picked up a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. That I think has some really interesting content in it, and I've begun to implement some of those lessons in my life. So, Stefan, I was planning on doing this for my 4th episode. That's what I originally had it planned. But Stefan will actually be headed on a year-long trip of self-discovery, I guess, around the world. Is that how you would describe it, Stefan?
Yeah, I think that's a good description.
Yeah. So Stefan, he spent 4 years working in the oil and gas industry with ExxonMobil. I mean, at this point, I'll kind of let Stefan take it away from here. Why don't you just give us a bit of background about yourself, sort of leading up to ExxonMobil and you taking on this 1 year long trip that you and a fellow friend are going to be on.
Yeah, this is dope. This is real official. So my name is Stefan McCall. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. Like Josh said, I'm gonna try not to say. I took a presentation class at Exxon while I was at Exxon, and one of the things they said was, not to use the filler words like so I'm gonna try to watch myself. So like Josh said, we met when we were in middle school, freshmen. I guess we were 11, which was crazy. So we both went to Parkview High School. I went to the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville and pursued my Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering, while Josh went off and did big things in New York City and got his mechanical engineering degree at Columbia University. So I got my degree in 4 years. Started with ExxonMobil down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Started there in August of 2015. Just as recently as October of 2019, I've technically started a leave of absence from the company And as Josh just said, we'll be taking a 6 to 12 month trip around the world to just see whatever with one of my best friends from Baton Rouge. Her name is Jamila. So yeah, we'll be traveling. We'll be spending a few months in Africa, and then spending some more extended time in Asia, Southeast Asia, a few months in Japan because I love Japan. It's my favorite country on the planet. Some of the other Eastern Asian countries like South Korea, Taiwan, China, and like I say, yeah, a lot of time in Southeast Asia. Potentially on the back end with some time in Australia, New Zealand, or who knows, maybe even Eastern Europe. So that's I guess a few minute backstory of who I am. If you want me to speak to something else, just let me know. But I guess that's a short intro.
Yeah, very good. One thing I've known Stefan, known him so long, he is an extremely humble guy. He texted me saying like, I don't know if I'll have enough to talk about to fill up, about an hour podcast. We don't know how long it's going to last, but Stefan's just being humble because he's had so many different experiences. I'm pretty sure that he has tons to talk about and tons of knowledge to sort of distill if he chooses to. I'm not going to put a gun up to his head just yet. But yeah, and if at any point you feel like I'm speaking out of term or you don't want me to like talk about something, feel free to interject. Go back in and cut it out. But
okay,
I want to start with, so I guess you and we are both what I call successful young men in our respective areas. We're both doing well. Parents proud of us. So something that folks have always told me is that I've always known what I want to do. And I feel like there's a lot of truth in that. And that's helped sustain my drive to do well in like school, work, things like that. But for you, and this is something that I didn't really know about until after you probably graduated, but you didn't choose mechanical engineering so much for the passion necessarily,
yeah,
but rather for the earning potential and because you enjoyed math, right?
Right, correct.
Yeah. And so what's so interesting about that is so many people, if they're working on something that they're not crazy passionate about, it really affects their productivity. It really affects them in a really negative way. And obviously you're taking this year-long trip because you want to figure out what you want to do so you can, I guess, have a more fulfilling life, which is awesome, right? But you went to college. Like, okay, let's start back in middle school, really like high school. You're an A/B student.
Yep.
You're a good student.
Yep.
But then just looking at you when you went to college, just like I could really tell that you sort of buckled down and started developing some habits. And some people will tie that into discipline. And I do think that there's an overlap, but there's a distinction between the two. And here I kind of just want to focus on the habits. Yep. And then really after you graduated and you went to ExxonMobil and you started having your own, you weren't constrained by homework, tests, things like that, and you just had an 8-hour workday, you're really able to start exploring some other things. So why don't we start with what sort of changes did you really implement in college and going into the workforce, and why did you implement those changes?
Yo, you're doing a great job so far. This is dope. This is official. All right, no, that was well said. So when I got to, as most kids are in the United States, right? Completing high school is I'm gonna ignorance. Isn't there a law that says you have? All children must complete high school.
Oh, no child left behind.
Something isn't it
required?
You
don't have to complete high school, but
you don't.
It's definitely a struggle if you do. And
but I thought
you can get a GED as well.
But isn't public school mandated to a certain level?
I think you have to be enrolled in a school. Like your parents can't not enroll you. But I don't know
Okay,
what happens like towards the end of high school if you decide to like drop out. So I'm not very
gotcha.
knowledgeable over that.
Okay, no biggie. What I was gonna say was that we're all conditioned, right? I mean, we're K. You go to elementary school, middle school, high school, K through 12, and then you got to go to college to make a living for yourself. So
Right.
that's all I thought about. Like you said, so my dad was an accountant for the state of Arkansas for 30 years, and he was like always good at math. And then like my mom originally went to college to be a elementary school teacher, and she
Right.
was like really good at English, and so was my grandmother. And so like I got like I guess my math skills from my dad, and like so I was really good at math in high school.
Yeah, I remember you enjoyed
And
it quite a bit. Like at least that was one of your top classes. You know.
yeah, so I was like, okay, yo, I'm good at math, but junior senior year of high school, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to major in college. Um, you know, Taking the money side out of it, I might have just majored in math. Wouldn't have really known what to do with that, but just based off pure interest, I might have gotten a math major. But the only job I thought I could have with a math major was like being a math teacher. And even though I really do enjoy helping people, I know like being a full time teacher was something that I didn't want to be. So I decided, hey, I need to go to college. I need to get a job afterwards. Why don't I be an engineer?
Sure.
And so I also thought, well, out of the engineering disciplines, mechanical, civil, industrial, electrical, computer, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I thought, hey, honestly, why not mechanical engineering? Because it's like one of those broad ones where you can kind of do anything with. Honestly, just like industrial or even civil. So I just decided to do mechanical, and really not out of any pure interest or anything. I just, like you said earlier, I wanted to have a job after I graduated. And like you said, I was like an A/B student in high school. Like, it wasn't stellar. I think I graduated. I think our class had like around 200 people in it in total, and I graduated like number 26. So I mean, one of our good students, not the best, but a good student, like you said. And when I got to college, my freshman year, I kind of kept those same study habits that I had my senior year or senior year in high school. I didn't really work super hard freshman year. Also, I'll say this before I guess jump into my college years. I got an engineering scholarship to attend the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. It's called ECAP, Engineering Career Awareness Preparement Program. And so the summer before my freshman year in college, I went up to the university and stayed up there for 3 weeks with the 20 other high school engineering students that were accepted into the program. And we kind of got to know each other and became friends. And the idea was that as we started freshman year, we would all study together and, kind of have a collective friend group that could help each other out. So I was really
So
kind of the key to. Go ahead.
sorry, just to sort of interject, but you touched on the
Mm-hmm.
scholarship. So when you went in, it was almost like a no brainer. Of okay, they're paying me to go to school. Let me go ahead and get this degree. Whereas a lot of people, there's probably like a lot more added stress and oh man, I have to pay this either through loans or out of pocket or through some other source. So there's a balance of
Yeah,
between what they want to do and what's going to be, I guess, lucrative to an extent after college, right?
yeah, and I want to also honestly double down on this. I had no idea what I was going to do aspect.
Sure.
To be honest with you, like I really underestimated the college application process. Like I remember like you, Miriam, like a lot of like I guess some of the top people in our class were like you guys were applying to colleges like mid like the start of our senior year and applying to scholarships and stuff. And man, I don't know what it was, but I really didn't care. Like
There's a
I
certain amount
think
of apathy related to it. It
yeah,
was just like another thing
another
on the
thing I
way
had to
to
do
life,
right.
on the way through life, right?
Yeah, like I think I knew that I was gonna get into Fayetteville because like I just had to grades to like Fayetteville had like this certain limit. Like if you had this GPA, if you had these ACT scores, and you were like automatically enrolled. Honestly,
Right.
and so like
I enrolled in Fayetteville, and I never got an acceptance or rejection letter. So,
are you sure you sent in the full application?
I might have not have. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
I just thought
Well,
that's always been funny. Because I waited for it on a lot. I just never got anything. And I was like, okay.
It's not like you needed it. How many colleges did you apply to? In
I
total,
only applied to 8, actually. And I probably should do like an episode over this because there's quite a bit of content to unpack there.
Really?
But I applied to 8, got into 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So yeah, like I was.
But hang on.
Go ahead.
Just one other thing.
Sure.
And so also you went on this 3-week college program beforehand. And you found some friends. So you guys sort of, I don't want to say took an oath, but you made sort of like a quasi-pact to sort of stick together, form study groups, and like, do well going forward. You knew you were sort of priming yourselves for the upcoming battle. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it only made sense that, we're all kind of from across the country coming together to this university. We really didn't. We're all new to the school. We didn't know anyone initially outside of ourselves because we spent 3 weeks together. So, yeah, that was the idea of the program, is that, so there were 20, 25 of us. Of course, we're all going to go amongst our separate engineering disciplines, but there might be five of us within each discipline, and we can always kind of be there to help each other out. So that's the idea of the program. And also the biggest, I'd say, honestly, the biggest part of it is that it came with a full scholarship.
Right. And I guess, like, also being a part of this engineering scholarship program, all the folks that you met were probably equally driven as you to succeed, right? Because it seems like that's always been sort of you've always had this foundation of like, okay, well, whatever I'm going to do, I want to be successful in it. And I feel like that's kind of allowed you to leverage a lot of good skills from that.
Right.
Cool. So your 3 weeks is up. You start freshman year, but you kind of keep the same study habits. So what ended up changing that allowed you to, because you ended up getting like quite a few semesters of 4.0s, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, so I remember my freshman year, both semesters I finished with like a 3.7, and that was because I had all A's, but I got a B in both Cal 1 and Cal 2. And it wasn't like those B's were like, oh, I'm really close to A's. It was like I barely got those B's, so I wasn't mad about it or anything. But like you said, like a study habit wise, I kind of kept the same habits that I did in high school. Like I only started studying for my tests like the weekend before, so I'd only have like 2 or 3 days of study time. I guess I kicked it up a little bit from high school, but it wasn't a ton.
Sure.
So I think what the first thing that changed is, like I said, I had that friend group of students from the summer, my ECAT fellows, but I wouldn't necessarily strictly study with them. Because freshman year at Fayetteville, and I know a lot of colleges do this, a lot of engineering programs, like your first year, you don't necessarily have to declare a major your first year. There's like a general engineering program where you're just kind of taking all your general ed courses, some technical electives, and like we had it was literally like a freshman engineering program where each semester we took like freshman engineering 1 and 2, where we had like homework assignments from like every discipline, and then like towards the end of your spring semester freshman year, that's when you declare a major. I think my freshman year, I still I would study with Ron and Ernest because they were both doing the engineering program as well.
So real quick, just for those of you guys who don't know, Ron and Ernest are also high school friends of Stefan and I, and they went to the University of Arkansas with Stefan.
Yeah. So I think freshman year, because the classes were so general, and I guess easier than the mechanical engineering core classes, I guess I didn't really have to work as hard as I would have in my later years. Long story short, freshman year study habits are still the same, sophomore year, when I start, I declared that I want to be mechanical engineer, study mechanical engineering. I started to get into those classes, and then some of my friends, I'm gonna name them. So Jesus, Michael, and Malachi, they were all in ECAP and all did mechanical engineering. I started to see how they studied, and when I started to see how they studied, I was like, oh, I need to change how I study. Hey, I need to go do my homework with the TAs. Hey, I should actually start preparing for a test at least a week ahead of time. So I think, sophomore year when we got into our mechanical engineering core classes, I was like, hey, I need to work with these guys, work how they work, and then maybe those 4.0s will start rolling along. So I think
So,
going into the go ahead.
real quick, I just want to stop you right there. So, how difficult of a
Yeah.
transition was that? Because you've gone from, okay, I can sort of get by freshman year, don't need to really change things up. And I know you had that
Mm.
internship in the summer.
Mm.
And then sophomore year, that's when things started changing. Was it pretty rough? What would you say was, what did you start to focus in on to start changing some of those old habits?
One very noticeable thing I did was, uh, honestly, I started going to like all TA office hours for like all of my classes to do my homework.
Sure.
Um, that was the biggest. That was one big thing. And then honestly, those honestly you could like the two biggest differences I guess I made between freshman and sophomore year. Or you can maybe say, let's not say all of sophomore year, maybe second semester sophomore year, because like first semester was like I still studied the same way. I was like, oh, I need to work harder or else my grades are gonna fall. And then second semester sophomore year is I guess when I really started to change. But the
Right.
two big changes that I made was that I started doing my homework with the TAs, and then I started studying for my tests like a week ahead of time.
Okay. That's a good spot to sort of delve into a bit because these are some um, habits that I'm guessing you kept as you went through college, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, real quick, did you get how far did you get into the power of habit? I completed the first third of it. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm about a halfway in, and yeah, I
okay.
meant to I meant to bring that up, and it literally slipped my mind. But yeah, like I guess it's good that because like the first third is where he really I guess talks about like building individual habits and replacing
Right.
old habits.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I think I know what you're gonna bring up. The fact that he says that some habits you have to be in like kind of support groups to
Well,
kind
that's
of.
one thing, but also by
Mm.
going to specifically the TA office hours, you sort of put yourself in the environment that would, he talks about. So for those of you guys who don't know, in the Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg talks about the structures of habit, and there's three components to it. There's your cue, there's your routine, and then there's your reward. So one of the examples he uses is if you have a habit of biting your fingernails, the cue might be you may be bored, and so you go immediately to this routine of biting your fingernails, and then your reward is, oh, look at that, it feels so good to sort of rake my fingers on my jeans or something like that. And then there's also
Mm-hmm.
sort of a subtext underlying this whole process of belief, which is you have to believe in it. We might get to that a bit later, and I find that one of the most fascinating
Hey
aspects.
Josh,
Hang on one second, folks. Yes, Stefan.
um, I got a call and now the audio isn't coming through my headphones. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Mm, 1 second.
Did you get kicked out of the Discord?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, you
All
sound
right.
much better now.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
No
Yeah, I got a
problem.
call and yeah,
Yeah.
you weren't coming through my headphones anymore.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
yeah. So
Sorry.
I
What
was
were you
just
saying?
I was breaking down to the audience the structure of habits that Charles Duhigg talks about in his book. So you have the cue, you have the routine, and then you have the reward, and then the whole underlying feature that supports all that is like the belief in the habit itself and the routine itself. And so for you, it seems like you were actually like you're modifying and like developing a new habit at the same time, where you had like this cue that acted as your stimuli. It used to be, or your cue used to be, oh, I have a test, I need to study, and you sort of injected this new routine of before you would just usually wait a couple days before to start studying, but now you put yourself in the TA's office, which makes it a lot easier to sort of get into the mode, I'm guessing, and gives you some more structure and like you said, a support group for studying. And then the reward is obviously, good grades, right? Yeah.
Okay, so in this example, you're saying, I guess, as far as taking a test, so Q might be, well, the Q is that, hey, the professor tells us, hey, a test is going to be in a month or so.
Right.
Routine, instead of being wait until the weekend prior to the test, start at least a week before the test. Of course, I know the reward in the study more scenario, but what would the old reward have been? Is a reward just completing the test and having that feeling of like
probably that's what I was
completion done?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's real interesting how he lays it out, right? Because one of the things I want to ask you is, having read, at least like the first third of this book, like, have you sort of looked back at, we're talking about your old college habits and tried to piece together the different aspects of the puzzle here for the habits that you sort of changed up? Or
I haven't, to be honest, not college habits, but I have started. I have thought a lot about recent habits like post college.
Okay.
Like for instance, let's talk about like we can start with a habit that I'm trying to break, which is like my need to like pick up and like check my phone.
Right.
So
before we get into that, sorry.
Okay. No problem.
I wanted to hold off on that until we get up to your graduation. But you said one of your habits was going to the TA office hours. What was the second habit you said?
So yeah, going to TA office hours to do homework and then studying for tests at least a week ahead of time.
Right. So those coupled together sort of set you up for
because success. Because tests and homework are at least. It depends on the class because, there might be a big project, but I'd say on average those are at least like 70 to 80% of your grade.
Right. So, what's interesting, so Stefan, his study habits were a lot more rigorous and I'd say productive than mine were. There were a certain amount of habits and, I had an okay system going, but it was kind of just chaos. It had a lot of aspects. It was just, But actually, looking back on it, now I think about it, there were some days where there's some semesters I realized when I felt like, and this sort of let me back up real far actually to the beginning of this podcast. But I told you guys that there was the whole reason I'm doing this podcast is because I've been doing self improvement, and one of those aspects is dealing with my anxiety and depression because they've really been affecting me in the past couple of years. And I remember before that I was I graduated with about a 3.5, 3 something, which is good for an Ivy League institution. But before that, I was during my sophomore and like the first half of my junior year, I was getting like 3.7s and stuff, making the dean's list. And I remember during that time, it was almost like my anxiety and depression wasn't really affecting me. So that whole belief structure that underlied my habits hadn't yet been shattered for reasons that I'm hoping that I'm still working out through a variety of ways, and also maybe we'll discover something along the way through this podcast. But I remember I had a work study job, and one of the best aspects of it, I feel like, besides the money, which allowed me to eat, but one of the best aspects about it was there was a set schedule to it. So I just incorporated that into my class schedule, and then I incorporated time to do homework and time to do studying, and it really worked for me. I think that really helped me focus and sort of get my mind right for school. So it's similar to Stefan, where I all of a sudden have this structure, and I would, you know, do homework with folks, go to TA office hours when I needed it. Probably didn't utilize it as much as probably Stefan did, but there was these cues, routines, and rewards that I had sort of set up without even noticing it during those years. So it's pretty interesting to see how that sort of comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so going back to Stefan, since he's our inaugural guest. So you sophomore year, you started incorporating these guys, these different habits. Junior year, senior year, pretty much you were mostly refining it. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I'd say, so I'm trying to think back to junior and senior year to say what maybe some kind of minor things I kind of added on.
Mm-hmm.
I would say junior and senior year. Maybe let's say like spring semester junior year through senior year, I also like started to reach out to other students within my major. I think sophomore year, junior year, I mainly, like I said, I mainly studied within my immediate friend group, Jesus, Michael, and Malachi, and that remained the same all throughout, until we all graduated. But I think once I got into the second half of junior year and then all through senior year, I also started a lot more to reach out to other engineering students within our major, within our class, for assistance as well.
You expanded your network.
Like exactly. Like there might have been a class or two that might not have had a TA, and right. Like, oh crap, okay, if I don't have a TA, I need to reach out to so and so who knows how to do this homework so I can figure it out. So I think towards the end of my major, I started to expand my network for sure.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I feel like that's one of the things that I kind of like didn't cope well because so I took a year off to work for NASA down in Houston. It was a great year and stuff, but because of that, the friends who I studied with,
you took a whole year, so fall semester.
2014, I did not go to school.
Dang, that's crazy. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, just real quick, Stefan, are you still recording? You still see the waveforms popping
up
as you talk?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yep. Just want to double check that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that took me out of phase with my friends who I developed because I also went to a pre-college program, and a lot of those friends we carried on studying together. But when I came back, they were all in different classes. Just about they were working on their capstone projects, getting ready to graduate.
So sorry to interrupt.
I didn't really. Oh, sure.
At what point? So what year was it that you took this year off? At what point?
2014.
No, I mean like.
So it was halfway between my junior year. So it was after my first semester of junior year.
Gotcha.
That's when I took it off.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So obviously when I came back, it was a bit of a readjustment, and I didn't get probably the right study groups formed that I probably should have. For numerous reasons, but yeah. So it's interesting to see that that sort of difference there.
That makes sense.
But with you, you expanded your network, and then
that's actually, like I said, expanding my network, and because it's I guess it's the same habits but different classes, different class structures, different grade weightings as far as whether there are class projects and whatnot. So
right.
I kept the same habits, and just each class was slightly different. So some are harder than others. Like I said, some had different structures, and honestly, I mean that carried me through graduations with no issue. I think, like as you alluded to earlier in the podcast, like my last 3 semesters in college, I achieved 3 straight 4.0s. And I will say that it wasn't all like you mentioned earlier that some of your study sessions may not have been as super productive. I think I was famous for like and this was like always occur right before a test. Like there's one building where the electrical engineering and biomedical engineering majors were housed. It was called Engineering Hall. Now, of course, we had all kind of different classes in that building throughout the day. But at night, that building was kind of empty because both of those majors had, relatively low amount of students. So I was kind of famous for like going to that building and just kind of like going to this one specific classroom and just, staying in there for hours on end. So like
doing homework, studying, projects.
Exactly, yeah. So before a test, there were some Saturdays where I would like literally go to that room like 12 o'clock noon and like stay there until 6, 7 o'clock. Now that sounds really awesome. Like, dang, you study for 6 or 7 hours. Honestly, my productivity might have been like 50%. And
that's still pretty good for a college student, and that long. That's still like a solid 3 hours of work.
Yeah. So that exactly. So I might have that honestly that sums up like my strategy for college. I would just like work on something for a super long amount of time, and like you said, I might be in a room all day and only get like 3 or 4 hours of good work in, but there was enough
got something done.
Yeah, because like this kind of, I guess we'll touch on this later in the podcast, but this kind of ties back to the whole, technology was, a blessing and a curse. There were a lot of times that, for an hour or so I might go on like a YouTube binge and like not do anything. So I struggled with productivity, but yeah, that was my strategy. Just sit in the room for a long ass time, and I'll eventually get something done.
Sure. Yeah, that's really awesome. It's really good to find a spot where you're kind of familiar with, but when you go to that spot, you're not going there to play video games or party or whatever. When you enter that room, it's like, okay, work time. And as long as you're in that room, you're kind of in that mode. That's their primary mode.
I think I probably should have mentioned that as like a change too. That change maybe came like maybe at the start of junior year. Like instead of like studying in my dorm room, I went to a separate room to study, and I've seen that talked about in a few different books.
Yeah.
Where you need to kind of separate your areas. Like, I don't read at home. I read at a separate location. It helped for me not to be in my dorm room where people might be in and out, where the TV might be playing, right next to my bed where I can lay down. I always went to like a separate location that kind of encouraged me to do some work. So I think that was also another habit that I started kind of junior year in college.
Yeah, I'm very similar. That's something I really had to focus on in grad school. Just make sure I have like different spots out, because I have to have I have a spot like I'm at home and I can chill, but I have to go to like a coffee shop if I want to read.
Right.
When I do lab work, I have to be in the lab, obviously. But even if it's like something on my computer that's related to the lab, it's like generally I'm most productive when I'm like in the lab. And then for like writing, I have to be at like either a coffee shop or like somewhere on campus. I don't know why. It's weird. But that's just kind of what I've noticed. And you have to sort of like listen to that. It's like, oh, I shouldn't tell myself like, oh, tonight I'm gonna really, be able to nail down working at home. Because it's like, is that really like the best way to tackle it? So it's good that you recognize that. I had one other thing on my mind, but maybe it'll pop up later. I don't think it was time critical.
Okay.
But yeah, so during this time, you're also doing internships, right?
Yes.
Did you have to implement any special habits for those internships? Because you worked at, why don't we just go through the places that you intern? There's a place in Little Rock, right? What was it?
Yeah. Center Point Energy.
Center Point
Energy. Yeah, okay. I always get the energy and Entergy confused, but it was Center Point Energy. They're a natural gas distribution company. They just built pipelines to supply natural gas to various things. So yeah, that was in Little Rock. That was in our hometown of Little Rock, Arkansas, in downtown. That was after freshman year, and after sophomore year, I interned with John Deere in Augusta, Georgia, and then in after my junior year, I interned with ExxonMobil in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yeah, and that's where you ended up ultimately.
Right. Yes. Yep.
So during those internships, did you face any struggles that required you to sort of rewire your mind in terms of work, or do you think that was something that kind of came a bit easier for you?
Man, how do I summarize my internship experiences? Man, to be honest with you, like honestly, I really don't think so.
Yeah.
You know, I change some of my man. I'm sorry if I'm be kind of bumbling through this. Because
That's fine.
to answer your question, no,
Sure.
I didn't, and I'm just kind of getting confused. I wish I should have. With my first internship with Centerpoint Energy, actually, me and our friend Travis, we worked there together. But that one wasn't too bad. That one was pretty easy. We were just kind of transferring information from like paper. They had all these paper maps of Arkansas that we were trying to upload the information into this ArcGIS software. So that one was pretty easy. That one was pretty easy. It was no big deal. Honestly, I think the internship that I struggled with the most was the second internship with John Deere. I went down there to down in Augusta, Georgia. I went there to be like a product design engineer, and that's using 3D modeling software to design different parts of the tractors that they are working on. And man, I struggled with that internship a lot. So we had, I don't know about you, I don't know about y'all, and I'd be interested to hear this, but at Arkansas at the time, I'm sure they could have changed the curriculum by this point, but we had like 3D modeling classes, or a class, but the class that we had at the time was taught by this one professor in particular, and he approached the class as kind of a self-taught class. So essentially, you really did not have to do any work for that class. There was like this one BS test that you had to pass along the semester, but there were no like mandatory homework assignments. It was, hey, you download the software on your computer, you take the guidebook, and you kind of teach yourself. So I mean, as you know, as college students with a big ass workload, like essentially what that was to me was
relegated to the back.
Exactly. Yeah, I got all these other classes that I had tests and that homework. Like I just don't have the time, or honestly, I didn't have the interest to teach myself this modeling software. Right. So my 3D modeling experience going into the internship was essentially like zero. So I really had to rely on the help of my mentor at John Deere, as well as some of the other John Deere interns to help me get through that. And hindsight 2020, I could have rented a computer from work and tried to do some study time on my own. But I didn't. So I'm just I'm just thinking back to it, what could I have done better? But yeah, so in all honesty, I really struggled through that internship. And then my third internship with ExxonMobil was pretty good. It was, so I do project management with ExxonMobil in Baton Rouge, and I interned in the same group that I ended up working for full time. So as my internship project was just to the projects department at the time in Baton Rouge handled capital projects up to $20 million, and when I began my internship there, their portfolio was increased to up to $50 million. So I had to do research on how we had to change our processes to handle those bigger $50 million projects. So that internship was essentially just talking to big project managers and seeing how some of our templates need to change. So yeah, that one's relatively easy. But again, Long story short, to answer your original question, did I had to alter any of my habits for any of those given internships? Not really. I mean, because I guess as opposed to college where you're kind of working essentially 24/7, you don't really necessarily have free time. With the
Right.
internships, it was you work 8 to 5 and then you go home and do
And you're
whatever.
done. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question necessarily, but
No, that's perfect.
okay.
Sorry, my cat just came up and patted me on the side.
Yeah.
So okay, so you graduate from University of Arkansas, and you sort of
Yep.
have a good work ethic. You have good get in the academic arena, and then you go work full time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of where I feel like we're gonna get to some good meat in the podcast. In fact, are you still good to
40.
go for like potentially another 30 minutes or so?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So yeah,
I was gonna say we're about to get to the good meat. 48 minutes
Yeah.
in.
Right. Yeah, so this is when I really was like, oh shit, Stefan is evolving. Like a Pokemon or like going Super Saiyan or something. It was crazy.
I'm interested to hear what made you say that.
So one of the things I feel like a good starting point is, you had these good academic and work habits, but as always, it goes through college. A lot of folks, physical health wise, changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to. Obviously, I'm not trying to like put you in a like talk bad about you, but that was something that you immediately sort of like said, "Oh, now that I have some extra free time, let me tackle this situation."
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you start? Because I feel like that was probably the first time, like one of the first times I was like, "Oh man, beyond this academic, Stefan is really applying these discipline and habit changing techniques in his like personal life." And I feel like that's really important, and just something that I've always tried to pick your brain on. Like I send Stefan texts quite often about like his diet, his workouts, things like that. But do you mind just setting the stage for kind of what led to that, and what kind of changes you want to implement, and how you formed habits around that? I know it's like quite a bit, but let's just
no, it
get the
was
ball
good.
rolling.
I followed it. So I started with ExxonMobil August 2015 in Baton Rouge, and so I've never. I'll say I'm not a good cook. Not that I can't cook. It's just I don't know a lot of, I guess, different things to cook. Like I have like a basic array of different items I know how to cook. And
You know
in
how to get
college,
by on that college.
yeah, and even then I was gonna say in college, like I had like a meal plan, so like I didn't have to cook in college. Like I didn't have to build upon my cooking skills whatsoever in college because me personally, I stayed in the dorms all 4 years, so I was always on a meal plan. And if I wasn't eating something that the college prepared, then I was, gonna go buy something. Like I never cooked food for myself because I was never in an apartment.
Right.
And so, yeah, so I didn't really build upon my cooking skills in college. So when I started full time with Exxon, I was like going out to eat a lot. And like when I did cook, it was like
That
super
Waffle
basic,
House
like hamburger helper. Anyway,
and,
like
Wingstop.
like hamburger. Yeah, now honestly, like I would get pizza almost every week. I would go to Panda Express was right around the corner. Five Guys was right next to me. Like I ate out a ton, and like I guess after 6 to 8 months or so, I noticed that I picked up like 10 pounds, and like it wasn't. I mean, 10 pounds isn't a big deal, but like I would look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, oh man, I look different. I've never been this heavy, and I mean, it was like I think the highest I'd ever gotten was like 220 pounds. So it's not crazy, but it was the fact that it was the heaviest I'd ever been,
Right.
and I could notice those changes in the mirror, and I was just
So you're like something's got to change.
yeah, exactly. So I remember, at that time, so I started at ExxonMobil again in projects as a field engineer. I'm out in the field a lot in construction with a bunch of older construction guys, and our safety coordinator, he was a black guy. His name is Ariel. I was like, man, I'm really trying to find somebody to go to the gym with me. You know, I was like, hey, man, I work out at the YMCA. Why don't you go with me? And I was like, all right, awesome, dope. Because, like, I'd never done, like, sports in school or anything or in college. So,
Yeah, you and me both.
I never really, like, knew,
Stefan and I were
like,
the nerds.
Yeah, for
Nerd
sure.
gamers. We were gaming was our thing. So we were
Yep.
never really doing physical activities.
Yeah, exactly. You know, actually, so let me. I'll back up actually and say, I think. So I think the first thing I did was I'm trying to remember. So I started running. I think I started running first, and then I started trying to lift. Like,
But you really got
okay,
on because I remember you posting. We have like a Facebook group. I remember you posting like you were doing like you were struggling to like complete a mile. You had
yeah,
like a 15 minute mile or something like that. Like the first time.
yeah. So I started running like spring of 20 like winter or spring of 2016, and like I would
It had
literally
to be
just like
spring because I remember
yeah.
you ran that 10K in the winter that year of 2016.
Yes. Dang. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I
I
did
told you,
like.
man. I've been like, oh, Stefan's really out here
You've been
doing
doing your
it.
research.
Been taking notes.
Yeah. So
They
there
haven't
was
been
like a
applied
five
effectively, but
k.
I've been taking them.
There was a 5K that I did in Baton Rouge, just like called the Color Run, where you just like you do a 5K and they throw like powder at you, kind of like with the Indian
Oh,
celebration,
holy
holy. Yeah.
festival of
Essentially holy and
yeah.
you combine the 5K. That's
Yeah,
the
I did
Color
one of those
Run.
in Houston. They're so much fun. I still got
Yeah.
my shirt. I haven't watched it since, but obviously I haven't
Man,
worn
I'm
it. But
pretty.
it's still,
I'm pretty sure I got rid of that shirt. But yeah, you should. That's definitely cool that you kept it. So yeah,
well, if
I
I
mean,
look
essentially,
right.
I started running and I started weightlifting because I had a friend from work that was lifting with me. So I started to see some changes. I started, running 3-4 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
going to the gym to lift 3-5 times a week.
But what I seem to notice is that for both of those, it seems like you found somebody to sort of be your workout buddy to help you with that, right? Do I have that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So with running, um, I had like I guess in 2016 I had various friends that I ran with, and then
Mm-hmm.
in 2017, me and Jamila got together and really started
Y'all really
doing
started
some
tag teaming with that, right?
yeah with the heavy training. Like we did like you said we did that 10K in December of 2016, and then
Did you
we
guys run
did
a marathon or a half marathon first?
yeah I was trying to yeah so we did the 10K in winter of 2016, then we did another 10K in like 2017, and then we did a marathon June 2018, and like that
Man,
was
so y'all
yeah
became some
training
career
for the
runners.
marathon was super crazy, um, because I mean like a proper training regimen has you running like 5 days a week, and so the marathon was in June, right? So the later part of the training regimen, kind of occurred starting in March, April, May, and then Baton Rouge. That's when it's starting to get hot. Like it's already hot in April, and
Ah,
the sun is out until like 7, 8 o'clock. So what would happen
yeah.
was that we couldn't, of course, like at that point, I wasn't really about getting up super early to do stuff. So I was still doing everything like after work, and like you'd have to wait until the sun went down and it cooled off
Before you
before
got your run in.
before you could run. So like
But
I
then you'd
would
have to
work
run a couple
until
hours at a time, right?
exactly. So I would work until 5, go home, eat, and then we'd run for like a few hours at a time. Like towards the end of the training regimen, even like the runs during the week were anywhere between 5 and 10 miles. Honestly, it was maybe 5 and 12 miles, and then we always had a long run on Sunday that 10 miles, then 12 miles, then 14 miles, then 16, then 18, then 20. So
Man.
yeah, it's just training for that marathon, took a lot out of me. And long story short, I retired from competitive running post
But
that
you did it,
marathon.
man.
Yeah, I did
But
it, and that's dope.
sorry, I just don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But if we
Sure.
kind of wind the wheel back to 2015 or 2016, I guess 2015, 2016 time frame, when you start noticing all these. So a lot of people, they struggle, with getting started at the gym. There's the joke that, or not even joke, but there's just the observation that the gyms become super crowded after New Year's, and then like you really February is when you start seeing the regulars. Really, that's when it starts dying off. So with you, how did you start getting into the groove of going to the gym regularly? Because that's even something I've struggled with. And after you explain, I'll sort of explain some of the techniques that start going to the gym regularly in my life. But for you, was it like, when people quit stuff, it's cold turkey. So did you just start the running, hot turkey, so to speak?
So I think with running and weightlifting, I was both very initially excited to do it. I think with running, what kept me consistent was the fact that I would sign up for these races, and then another one of my friends, her name is Hannah Cooling. She was like a cross country runner in college, and so she was like a super experienced runner. So she would like build these training programs for us, and so like I had a running schedule that I had to follow. So that helped me stay consistent.
So you had your routine
running.
laid out for you, so you didn't really have to rely so much on these cues and rewards.
Yeah, because if I would have,
okay, this is my schedule, I have to do it.
Exactly, because if I would have gone based on feel for running, then I might not have continued with it. Like if I didn't have these races to train for, I might not have stuck with it, because running can be pretty uncomfortable. I mean, you have to dealing with shin splints, icing, and stuff. Like you have to run for a while, and even after I was running for like a year, I mean, I would still have to fight through leg discomfort. But with weightlifting, I really enjoyed weightlifting. Like it wasn't something that I had to convince myself to go do, or have to manipulate my schedule or manipulate my brain to convince myself to do it. It was I genuinely enjoyed going to the gym to lift weights. So that was something I was looking forward to.
So it's just like you discovered like a new hobby almost. And
exactly.
Did you have any sort of goal in regards to weightlifting? Because it seems like that was a big motivator for your running, right? Like you have these 5Ks, these 10Ks. But for weightlifting, what kind of drove? Was there anything else that drove you besides, I want to get in the gym and pump some iron?
It was it was like I just wanted to look better. It wasn't like a competition I was training for or anything. Like I just wanted to look better. That was it. I mean, it was all vain. Like I just wanted to. I wanted to look at.
Hey, that's a good goal. That's kind of. Yeah, I understand that totally.
Yeah, I just wanted to look better. Like of course, there's the more important aspect is bettering your health. But honestly, I just wanted to look better. Yeah. So it was like I enjoyed. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say, and you do. I could even tell because Stefan, like, just really explains how much of a brother he is to me. But he came up to see me graduate, and I could tell he had been, going through some significant physical changes, and I was just like, man, look at him, like, really out here doing and pulling and pushing, lifting big things. You know what I'm saying?
Is it too early to talk about what I would have done differently with weightlifting?
Oh, go ahead. Why don't you drop some knowledge for us?
So honestly, like the last year or so, I haven't really been doing it as much. Like just in full transparency, and that's because like a year ago, like I was on like the incline bench, which was something I'd done numerous times before, but I think back when I was lifting, like I was never super good on getting like a proper warm up before I lifted, and like in this case, I was like doing like a mini warm up, like I was just like doing some reps with the bar by itself, and I noticed like there was like a slight pain in my shoulder, and I didn't really think much of it. I was like, oh, it's whatever. So I pushed through it. I did my lifts and everything, and I did this for like 2 weeks, and I just really noticed that my shoulder was still really bothering me. Like I felt like I knew if I kept going, I was gonna like injure myself. So because of that, like I laid off of it, and like that shoulder discomfort never really went away. So I just haven't been doing my lifting as much in the last year or so.
Have you gone to the
So
doctor to get it checked out, or
I didn't. To be honest with you, man, I didn't. It's it's like I think it's good now,
did not go
but
seek out a medical professional?
I did. So that I did not. So yes, that would if you're feeling down, go see the doctor. That would be advice number one.
Wise words from Stefan McCall.
Advice number two, I think if I were doing it all over again, I honestly would have joined CrossFit. Um, I
Can't
remember
get the form down.
exactly that same friend Hannah Cool, the one that was building my running schedules. I mean, she was like, "Hey, we should all go do CrossFit together and do some team workouts. It'll be awesome." And I looked at the monthly price, and I was like, "There's no way," because it's like $140 a month. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't even consider trying it out. I was like, "There's no way I'm paying for that." Like going to the Y is like $30 a month. But hindsight
Right.
2020, if I could do it all over again, I would have definitely, without a doubt, like I would have done CrossFit because, like you said, you learned a proper form such that you set yourself up for a life of working out with no injuries, and that's the most important thing. So,
Right.
for anybody that's listening to this, if you can fit that into your budget, and it doesn't necessarily have to be CrossFit. I'm just saying you need to get guided instruction on how to properly do your lifting forms like squatting, deadlifts, bench press. You just need to get guided instruction. Like had I worked full time in Little Rock, for instance, I would have worked out with Trey Sean, and he could have taught me how to lift properly, and I would have been fine. So if you're
So
gonna start going,
real quick, just Trayshawn Hall.
yeah,
He's another friend of ours from who also went to school, and we kind of reconnected with him back in like what 2014. Stefan, is that about the time? But he went
yeah,
through
yeah,
a
yeah.
huge transformation on physically wise to where now he's like very fit. I'll say that much. I'm gonna have to have him on
Man,
the
Black
show
Panther.
at some point to to
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
you're
it.
gonna
Now
have
he's
to have
in
like a fitness exclusive podcast, maybe, and
man.
he would be like the person for it.
Yeah, he's in like the National Guard or Army right now. So stay tuned. He's definitely one of the folks I want to get on here. But yeah, so sorry to cut you off real quick. I just wanted to give him a
No, no
little
problem.
background on Trishawn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, appreciate that. What was I? What?
We were talking about injuries, just lessons you learn, what you would have done differently. You would have done CrossFit, just learning about form.
Yeah, I would have gotten guided instruction on lifting forms, whether that was
Sure.
CrossFit, getting a personal trainer at LA Fitness, something like. I feel like had I done that, I would look a lot differently than I do today, and I still I look a lot better than I did in high school and in college because I never did any physical activity in any form. But just again, hindsight 2020, what I would have done differently.
But you still go to the gym pretty regularly, though, right?
Yeah, I go to the gym and
What do
do
you do
cardio.
there?
Like honestly,
Cardio.
I do Stairmaster. Like I do like a 20-30 minute hit workout on Stairmaster machines, which is awesome because like like you might run on a treadmill and it'll say like, or even an elliptical, and it'll say like after 30 minutes you burned like 200 or 300 calories, and you don't really
Yeah,
feel like you burned 200 or 300 calories. Like
yeah,
that was always in my mind. But like on the Stairmaster, like my heart rate is at an average of like 170 to 180. I'll say 160 to 170 over 30 minutes, and like I really feel like I actually burned 250 or 300 calories. And
gotcha.
so like I do that like 5 times a week, and even though I'm not lifting, I think just for general health, if you get in like I've heard this on several like health podcasts and YouTube videos, if you get in around 150 minutes of like high intensity, or moderate to high intensity workouts in a week, I mean that'll just that's really good for your personal health. So I just try to
Gotcha.
stay active. Long story short, whether that's running outside or doing Stairmaster, just to get my heart rate up a few times a week.
Nice. So, trying to figure out where to go from here. I got a couple of ways I'm trying to nail it down. But okay, so I guess well, I'll sort of inject my experience real quick just to sort of
Sure.
you know explain a different experience. But I recently started, and when I say recent, I mean like in the past month or so, started going to the gym regularly. I do 3 days of lifting and 3 days of cardio, and I kind of alternate. And I'm still not. The idea is to do 6 days worth of going to the gym. But I haven't been obviously completely in line with that goal, but I'm still trying. But my whole objective is like I've really been trying to focus on mental health,
Right.
and trying to treat it as like a medication.
Okay.
But it's still, where am I trying to go with this? It's still kind of a work in progress. But Stefan is like a nice role model to have, who I can just either think about like, yeah, Stefan did this. I could definitely do this. He'd definitely be there cheering me on, and he is cheering me on. And he's somebody I can talk to for advice. But it's really hard to sort of implement these habits. One thing that I started to try to do, I'm pretty okay with waking up at about 5 a.m. During the weekdays to try to go to the gym. But what ends up happening is oftentimes I'll get up, go to the living room. I'll be up for 20 minutes or so, and I can really start my day at that point. But I decide to take a nap on the couch. That happens. That happens so often. And like part of it is just like, okay, laziness, but like also it's just like, once again, going back to this book, this idea of belief in yourself. And that's something that I've kind of like struggled with. It plays to my anxiety and depression. And so it's sort of like this hill that I'm working on getting over. So I have to find interesting ways to get around it. So it's like, okay, I still want to go to the gym on these days. What's another way I can implement it while I get a handle on this other stuff in the morning? If I go to the gym in the morning, that's fine, but maybe that won't happen. So what's another way I can sort of do it? And going back to this whole, I love this cue routine reward thing, right? Because now I with this anxiety, obviously I'm responding to a lot of stress. And before I used to become a recluse. I would just get stressed out. I'd become a recluse. It was never good for anybody in my family to be worried about me, friends, like line mates, whatever. It was just never a good thing. And I've been working on that. So one of the things I do now, instead of becoming a recluse as my routine, I'll either call somebody, or I've also sort of implemented going to the gym. And that's been really helpful in getting me out of my apartment and into the gym. And, I've started to enjoy it. I don't really have a goal in mind, just a general idea of like, okay, I need to be fit. It's just like sort of taking my medicine every day. And then the reward afterwards is just like, just feeling being able to relax a bit,
Right.
So that's been really helpful. But something I've been running into is just, it's always, if it ain't one problem, it's another. And so now, and this is something I've been particularly impressed with you by, is how you fit this all into a schedule. Because it's so hard to say, oh, I want to get these 5 things done, and then ending the day only having done half of one thing. It's so easy to do that. And then you working full time, you have I would say a pretty active social life, traveling. When you started doing all this gym, cooking, all these sorts of things, how did you build a schedule around that? And then how did you stick with that schedule?
So when I first initially started lifting and running, I would lift in the morning, and then I would run in the afternoon. And my thought, let me back that up. So I think when I first started running and weightlifting, honestly, I did both in the afternoon, and I would just alternate. One day I would lift, next day I would run. Because like I said, there was a guy from work that I started to lift with, and we would always work out together in the afternoon.
Right.
But as time went on and I started to kind of like do my own thing, especially on the lifting, I would lift in the morning and run in the afternoon. I think what helped, because I wasn't always, when I hear the term morning person, that to me, that means someone that wakes up in the morning with no problem. Now, as of recent, and I get up in the mornings all the time now, but do I get up with no issue?
What time do you wake up?
So this last year, working with Exxon, I would get up on average 5:30.
5:30, okay.
And that's because of a new habit I started. But with the lifting and running, I would lift in the mornings. Sometimes I would lift in the afternoons. What helped me lift in the mornings, like I said, I wasn't necessarily a morning person, was that I would lay out all of my clothes and stuff. I would do all my packing so that
Mm-hmm.
when I woke up in the morning and I'm super groggy, I can't really think. All I had to do was brush my teeth, get dressed, and walk out the door.
Yeah.
If there was ever a morning where I had to wake up, then find all my clothes, then put them in a bag, and then get my food together, that decreased my success chance of getting out the door by like 50%. But like if
Right.
I did all my preparation the night before and made it such that when I woke up in the morning, I didn't really have to do too much thinking. It was a lot easier to get out and go to the gym.
Nice.
So I think that was pretty integral to working out in the morning.
Yeah.
As far
Really
as
prepping yourself, already having sort of the cues to your habits laid out, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, that's something
exactly.
that really helps me actually in the morning. Sometimes it's not enough, but it's definitely something that helps. Is I have my clothes set out, and I'll I don't know if this is TMI. I don't think it's TMI, but like before I even leave my room, I'll just be in my boxers, and then
Mm,
because I hang up my gym clothes in my shower so they can dry because I alternate between two sets because I still got to get some more gym clothes. But so as soon as I walk to the bathroom, I use the bathroom and I put on my gym clothes. I don't even brush my teeth because if I brush my teeth, that's too much time and sitting around. And I know I'm not going to talk to anybody at the gym, so
mm,
I go to the gym with stanky breath. Nobody notices, and then I get my workout in. But yeah, like
right,
having that cue ready to really start making it sort of like you made it into like an automatic response almost, so where you wake up, you see your clothes laid out, and you're like putting yourself into a gym mode, right?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm gonna send you something via text. Don't worry
Mhm.
about it right now, but it's just something that I want you to read for us, like
Okay,
towards the end. I'll let you know.
okay.
Okay, but yeah, so you
And
just
then
had
I
to
was just
like
gonna, and
prep
then
your yeah.
I was gonna say with the running again, it was I also did it after work, but having that schedule set out by my trainer Hannah, that's what kind
Mm-hmm.
of kept me on track with the running.
Gotcha. See, I had to basically stop running because I can't find a trail here. It's like something
Yeah, no,
I'll
I
plan
can
to do
only
later,
imagine
but I
trying
can't.
to run in
Man,
New York City, or I don't really know what Ann Arbor is like, but
man, it we got like a foot of snow 2 weeks ago, and it drops
mhm,
down to like 20 degrees, and it's just miserable. So I do all my running now on the treadmill, which I know isn't the best, but it's like
mhm.
I
It's
can
better
sort
than
of
not running at
monitor
all.
my yeah, and it's like I can monitor my speed. I can at least build up my system, or whatever. So like later down the line, when I have these habits formulated a bit more, and I have a trail set out, and I have some better winter gear and stuff, then I'll probably implement it. But for now, it's like, nah, I'm from the south. I can't do this over the winter.
What's the weather up there like during the summer?
It's nice,
It's
like
nice.
80s. Yeah, it can be
Okay.
80s, but
Okay.
it just like January sometimes just below zero temperatures. Nah,
Right. Right.
nah.
No, I
I'm okay
understand.
getting to my car and then going
Hmm.
to the gym, but I can be running out here a couple miles just yet. I haven't built up the resistance.
Right. I feel no, man. I probably I know we've talked about this numerous times as far as like our living preferences in the U.S. But even though I love cold weather, I would by no means pretend that I would try to like run through like a foot of snow. That's,
Man,
or
they do a good
or
job of
below
carrying it
zero.
out, but it's.
Yeah.
I wonder why humans settled here. I really do. I'm like, what?
Okay.
Because they didn't have heat back then. Or did they just sleep
Okay.
underneath a bear in a cave? Like what?
Okay. All right. I feel like Evan would have really laughed at that.
Oh man, he laughs at everything. I'm gonna have him on the show. Evan's another one of our friends, and I don't really know how to describe him. He's gonna have to describe himself, and he probably
Man,
still like leave you in just confusion. But
bro, you're
that'll be
gonna
a
have to
later episode.
when you have him on, you're gonna have to really like limit it to one topic, or just I guess I don't
Yeah,
know, be prepared for like a 3 hour episode potentially, because I know he can just
maybe
go on and on about everything.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So where were we? You so you got this gym regimen down, but But then you started expanding sort of your these I want to say like healthy, productive habits into other areas, including sort of making sure you have some sort of intellectual stimulus throughout the day from reading, grabbing coffee. So how did these habits sort of evolve? How did it
Before I get to that, I think honestly, I think I should maybe touch on the food aspect as well.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, with personal health, I know there are a ton of people that like go to the gym and work out, but then will like continuously like eat like crap like all week. Like if you work out and your diet is still trash, like you there won't be any changes. So around the same time where I really started to like run and lift weights, I started to like experiment with my diet. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I had been a consistent like go out to eat person, like pizza, Panda Express, Wingstop, whatever, like Five Guys.
Right.
But like I said
all the time.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, though, I wasn't necessarily a great cook. So I would cook some things, like I would cook like chicken breast or spaghetti, just real basic stuff. But I started to like experiment with like Soylent. Soylent is a meal replacer that is offered and I know it's offered in some stores, but I always got it off Amazon. So I really started to experiment with like having one of my meals like be like a smoothie. Like I used Soylent for like a good year or 2 years. And like I'd have a Soylent and I'd throw like other stuff in it, like protein powder, bananas, whatever.
Make you a super shake.
Yeah, and like this last year or so, I think I really started to like hone down on my healthy eating somewhat, where at least I'd say I'm eating healthy 80% of the time at least.
That's really good.
I started intermittent fasting October of last year.
Okay.
And what intermittent fasting?
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so that means that you only eat within a specific window, and then you're fasting all the other time. So most people, right? Like most people might eat dinner somewhere between 7 and 9 o'clock, and then you go to sleep, and technically you're fasting until you wake up in the morning, and most people have breakfast. But what intermittent fasting is, it's like, okay, you stop eating somewhere between 6 and 8 o'clock at night. You don't eat anything else. That means no late night snacking or anything, or no waking up at midnight and going to the fridge and getting something. And then you wake up in the morning and you also don't eat breakfast. So me personally, my normal routine is I will stop eating somewhere between 6 and 7 p.m. I try to shoot for 6 p.m. Sometimes it drags on to 7 p.m. And then I don't eat until 11 o'clock. So my eating window is between... Yeah, so my eating window is between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. So that's a 7-hour eating window and then a 17-hour fasting window. And what that's done for me is... So as you can imagine, that's going to kind of naturally cut down, I guess, on the amount of calories that you might consume. Because let's say like I have like a small breakfast of like 500 to 800 calories, where like let's say I eat 2 pieces of toast, 3 eggs, 3 pieces of bacon, and like a cup of rice or something. So that's like a good breakfast. Like it's not a ton of food. It's gonna keep you full for 3 to 4 hours. But let's say like if I had that at 8 o'clock, I would be hungry by 12. Like I'd be ready to eat some more. So I'd have lunch, and then that'd keep me full for another 4 hours or so, and then I'd have dinner. So let's say I eat let's say after breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I've eaten, let's say, 2,500 calories for the day. But if I cut out that same breakfast, so I cut out that 500 to 800 calories, and then I just, I skip breakfast, down. And then I can literally I can have the same lunch that I would have had on the previous day where I ate breakfast. It's like I've tricked my body into not desiring food in the morning, so therefore, naturally, I'm just going to eat a lower amount of calories in the day. Like when I tell that to some people, they think, oh, well, that means that you must be starving by lunch, and you're just having an overly large lunch, and like that's not the case. Like on the day, I could have the same lunch that I had on the day where I ate breakfast, compared to the day where I didn't eat breakfast. So that's intermittent fasting. I've been doing that for about a year or so now, and that's really helped me, I guess, consume fewer calories. And then
Mm-hmm.
also because
So,
I'm not
so
a go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so you haven't really had that many issues with like staving off hunger, like in the mornings especially, because I know if I don't eat something in the morning, I just, I'm floating around the city, not knowing what to do with my life.
So
I gotta eat something.
I can for sure empathize. I remember back when I ate breakfast my whole life. So anytime like I would miss breakfast in the morning, I would get to work and like it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock. If I hadn't eaten breakfast, I could barely think. Well, I mean, my stomach would be hurting so bad.
Yeah.
But after I fasted, so when I started fasting purposely, I mean, the first 3 or 4 days were tough. But like essentially after the first week or two, it was like I could get to 10 o'clock with no issues. Like I didn't really start feeling hungry until about 10 o'clock, and then I could just hold out until 11. But
Wow.
what helps with fasting is drinking a lot of water, of course, because sometimes like when you're hungry, you might feel that you're hungry, but you're really just thirsty. Because I do think that like a lot of people don't really drink a ton of water. Like also when I
Yeah.
started like my personal health journey, I also started to like make myself drink a lot more water. So like I strive to like drink a gallon of water every day. So like the first thing I do
Are
when I
you one of
wake
those
up,
folks who carries around the jug
I
at
used to,
work?
I used to, I used to, yeah. I can't believe I did that, but I literally like for at least 4 months or so, like I carried like a gallon water jug at work. I was one of
Oh
those
man.
people. I don't look back at that fondly, but yeah, drinking a ton of water helps with fasting. So like it might be 9 o'clock in the morning, my stomach will start to growl, and then I'll just drink like a 20-ounce bottle of water or so, and then that'll satiate me for like 30 minutes. So like
Gotcha.
drinking water, and then I'm also a coffee drinker. So coffee is like a hunger suppressant, depressant, whatever
It
word. Like it,
is.
yeah, it definitely it helps.
Man, I get so hungry with coffee. But maybe
Really,
that's just because I've always drank coffee with food. Like I've
hmm.
never like it's just real hard for me to have it like on its own. I don't know why. Because I mainly just
when
drink coffee in the morning and I'm good.
when did you start drinking coffee?
Freshman year of college.
Okay, for me, like I literally because I always thought that coffee was disgusting. I never really drank coffee in college. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't I didn't start drinking coffee until I started working.
I
Um,
see.
but yeah, like if I'm fasting in the morning, I drink water and coffee and that's it, and then I take some vitamins. And yeah, so like I'm able to, like I said, it's not until like 10:30 until I really start to feel hungry, and then I can just willpower those last 30 minutes to an hour until I eat at 11.
Gotcha.
So to sum this all up, I think working on my diet, not eating out as much, cooking basic things. Like sometimes, like I'll make one of my huge meal replacement shakes and have that for lunch, and then dinner might be a simple. I might have like 6 eggs, chicken sausage, and like some low calorie toast, and that'll be dinner. And then for my snack will be like Greek yogurt and just some other random stuff, whatever I have at the time. So
Boy, I'm just imagining high school Stefan eating this stuff and you just talking smack to future Stefan or
man,
current
yeah,
Stefan right now.
I think the key
Boy, because
with like
Stefan used to be
building
the hamburger fiend, folks.
this dude.
He used to be the hamburglar.
No, yeah, like for all the podcast listeners, in high school we had this guy named Papa, and he would like sell
Pawpaw.
he would sell snacks like in the
Junk
gym
food.
during lunch.
Oh yeah,
So
Pawpaw.
like
Okay, yeah. Yep.
so like half the time my lunch was like 2 honey buns and a Powerade, and that's so horrible. Like I'm gonna find those honey buns on Costco to see how many grams of sugar that was. Like that had to have been easily 100 grams of sugar. Like my diet,
Man,
my high school diet was horrible. So like yeah,
that's
like
diabetes in a bun.
had I went from like freshman year, well not I'm sorry, not freshman year, like my first year out of college, first year working with Exxon. If I went from one day, for lunch, I'm having Raisin Canes, to the very next day, I'm having this huge shake filled with spinach, protein powder, and whatever. that habit
Mm-hmm.
probably wouldn't have stuck. But I think what helped me build that habit was slowly, I guess, incorporating changes over time. So like
Yeah.
at first, I just started with a simple Soylent, and hey, it may not taste amazing, but it's literally just like this 14-ounce bottle. It takes me 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds to drink the whole thing, and then
Damn.
like I'm done.
Oh.
You know, so it may not be delicious,
Get
but
out the way.
it's quick.
Yeah.
Like I really favor ease over taste. Like I love, of course, I love food,
Dude,
but
I'm
like
the same way. Yeah,
that's
I know
that's
exactly
why
what you mean.
that's why
If I
like
could
it's
just have a pill that just gave me everything I needed for the day, and I
exactly
could just boom,
that's essentially what
swallow
my
that,
shake
I'd be
is to
good.
me. That's
Yeah.
essentially what my shake is. It's like, yeah, it doesn't taste amazing. Yeah, I would much rather prefer to have this Five Guys meal, but it's healthy. I know through this shake I'm getting my vegetables and my fruits in,
Yeah, you're getting
and then
exactly
it's
what you
like,
need.
and then like if we were like playing games, like I might have the shake for dinner. So like, recently, like this year, like, we were playing Borderlands, and I really like this again. This like routine habit. Like we would always start playing at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which was
Uh-huh.
was it? No. It
No,
was
no, it was 8. It was 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
And
Eastern
it was
time, which
7
is
p.m. your time.
right. So what I would do most of those nights was I would have my shake for dinner, and so I didn't have to worry about when I after work out, come home, shower, make some food. All I had to do was come home, work out, come home, shower, drink my shake, and then I could play. So I
Yeah.
prefer, like you were saying, I prefer like quick meals instead of having to like cook something every day. And even when I
Right.
did cook, it was something super basic like eggs and bacon or something that I really didn't mind cooking every night. Something that might
Yeah.
take me like 20 minutes to make.
And so that's actually something I want to just hit on real quick because I know a lot of folks are like, oh man, he's working for Exxon, making. I'm not gonna say how much you make, but you live very comfortably. But these
Yeah.
habits that you're implementing, it's
Mhm.
something that's pretty accessible to a lot of different people. Like I'm on a
Yeah.
grad student salary, and I'm able to go to the gym,
Yeah.
really have these good meals for decent prices. So it's not like sure, some things you do in your life that form these habits
Right.
is a function of your job and
Right.
the freedom that it allows you as well as the pay.
Right.
But a lot of these things can be boiled down to a few simple tasks that you sort of incrementally apply throughout your life, like to do every day. Right? Does that sound about
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, I wish I've started to, I guess, really freestyle while I'm describing these habits. I wanted to, like, at the start of the podcast, I wanted to try and, I guess, formulate every habit through the, cue, routine, reward, system that
Yeah.
Charles described. But I've just kind of forgot about that, and I've just been talking. So I apologize.
No, it's all good because I was gonna say this towards the end, but it'd be interesting to like keep up these sort of podcast check-ins on our habits,
Yeah.
and try to tie them back, see how they're sort of affecting our life. Because I feel like you're at a pretty advanced stage, and I'm at a pretty beginning stage where we're both trying to we're looking at the same book and saying like, okay, how can these sort of help out our lives,
So I want to. There are two more things I want to talk about, but I don't know if you had where you wanted to take this. I wanted to talk about one more habit. I guess I wanted to get to the you mentioned like the intellectual thing as far as like mental stimuli and whatnot. I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah, so like the last habit that I've most recently started has been so I hit 4 years with the company with ExxonMobil in August of this year, and with ExxonMobil, your 401k contributions from the company they vest at 3 years, which means that the money that the company gives you towards your 401k, you get to keep if you leave the company. Like you get to keep, after 3 years, you get to keep that money if you leave the company. So when I hit year
Okay.
3, I I was like, yo, I don't really know a lot about finance. Like I contribute to my 401k. I've started to save a little bit more money, kinda. Like I didn't
Sure.
really save a lot of money my first 2 years with Exxon. So it was like year 3. I'm starting to save a little bit more, but still not a ton. I knew what a Roth IRA was, but I still really had no idea what that meant. So like I got to towards the end of 2018, I was like, yo, I really need to like start reading, or I need to just like start increasing my personal knowledge level outside of what I'm learning through ExxonMobil. So start of 2019, I made I read this book called Atomic Habits, like December of last year, and one of the things that the
Who's the
author,
author?
James Clark. I'm gonna go on.
Okay.
I'm gonna go on Amazon right quick to verify that. Hold on.
Okay.
Power. Atomic Habits. James Clear. I'm sorry, James Clear.
James Clear. Okay.
Yeah, Clear. And
Cool.
this was almost a year ago, so I can't remember all of what he talked about. But I remember one of the things that stuck out to me the most was like, if you do something a little bit, like to really build a habit, you have to do it every day. Like you have to do it until it really becomes subconscious. So he described like this way to like, start like making reading a book a habit. Like let's say like if you read one page a day for a month or for a week, and then the next week you read 2 pages a day, the next week you read 3 pages a day, etc., until you get to So that's literally what I did. Like started 2019, I was like, hey, I'm gonna start reading 15 pages a day, and then each week I'm gonna increase it by 1 page. And then I kept doing that until the point where I was reading like 40 pages a day. And that's where I kind of...
you're at now?
Yeah, because like I got to 40 pages a day, and it was like, that would take me, depending on the book, it would take me an average around 45 minutes to an hour. I could have went up to 50, but I was like, man, 50 might be too much, because that's like pushing over an hour every day.
Spot to sort of sit in. That's a really good amount, because you can finish like a book a week.
Yeah, essentially.
Depending on the book, like a book.
Right. I put most books
week or
outside
2 weeks.
Outside of like super long, I guess, fiction books, like a lot of books are like somewhere between 200 and 300 pages. So that's essentially like if you're doing 40 pages a day, that's like 280 pages a week. And so that's essentially like around a book a week. Yeah. So that's what I did. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say. You got it.
You go, Stefan. You're the guest. You go.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I started doing this year. So I got to like 40 pages a day. Started reading a lot of finance books to increase my knowledge with personal finance. Started reading a lot of fiction books. So that's been the habit I've been most proud of, because like after December is over, that would be a full year of like essentially reading almost every day. I think out of 365 days, I will have not. So I strive for 40 pages a day, but my minimum is 25 pages a day. So there's an app that I use called Habit Bull, where I keep track of this. So I put it in Habit Bull that I have to read 25 pages every day. And every day I have to log how many pages I read for the day. So even though most days I read at least 40 pages, there might be some days where I only have to read 25. So out of 365 days this year, there might be like maybe 30 to 40 days where I didn't read at least 25 pages. So I still messed up a lot.
How many pages you read today?
I read 25. 25 this
25,
morning.
Okay.
But what was I going to say? So yeah, like actually I'm going in the app right now. I have a 90% success rate with my reading for the year.
Still getting that 4.0.
I read an average of 338 pages a week, and my longest streak has been 92 days of reading at least 25 pages every day. So anyway, what I'm most proud of is like after December is over, I will have like. To this date, I've read 38 books this year, and I'll probably read at least maybe 3 or 4 more. So it'll be like 41 books read for the year. So that's been something really tangible that I can look back and say, hey, I started this habit, and then this is what I've accomplish for the year. These are all the various things that I've learned and whatnot.
And I bet that's a huge like self confidence boost, and like it's sort of like rewarding to see that, to like look back on it and be like, oh man, look, because I bet it was kind of hard and daunting when you started, December of last year. Like, oh man, okay, well, 15 pages. Let's just start this thing, and then
it was
40 pages a day and 38 books later.
Yeah. I know, like to get through those first 20 pages when I first started out early this year was pretty tough. But like I said, the more you do it, the easier it's exactly incremental. That was like one of the key points that Atomic Habits preached, was like incremental change to build habits.
Man, so I've sort of picked up on that lesson from some of the other self-improvement stuff. It's like this, almost like a universal lesson on improvement. A lot of times I used to try to like change things like overnight. Like I did that like basically 25 years straight. And it's only recently that I've been like really focusing and wiring my brain to like, okay, let's just do this one thing today and do that one thing plus a little bit extra tomorrow.
Right.
And like super powerful mindset. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, getting almost to 2 hours. So
okay, one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's like one. This is actually. I think I've talked about all the habits that I've built, but there's one.
Sure.
I do, before the podcast is over, I wanted to talk about like a habit that I'm trying to like get rid of, or not necessarily get rid of, because like as Charles Duhigg talked about in Power Habits, you can't really, once it's a habit, you can't necessarily get rid of it. You can only like rewrite it. Exactly, replace it.
Yeah, rewrite it. Yeah.
So there's like a habit that I'm still trying to rewrite, which is, using my cell phone
all the time.
So before we get to that,
talked about this a bit.
Was there anything else that you wanted to discuss?
Nah, dude, this is like, we've really hit all of the points that I wanted to hit, because I told you I had like some notes laid out.
Okay.
But yeah, we even went beyond. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, so, I mean, honestly, this was going to be me more so asking you for your advice, because, like, with my phone.
My advice?
Like, I stopped going on social media and Facebook as much as I did in the past. I remember, like, back when I had Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat all on my phone. Like, I would be at work, and I would take 10 to 15 minutes out, and I would just, like, continuously, like, cycle through those 3 apps. And I would do this, like, I would do that, like, every hour. So it was a huge, like, productivity hit. Like, I would go on Facebook to check the Wolfpack, which the Wolfpack is, like, our Facebook group from all of our high school friends from Arkansas and some of our college friends that we picked up along the way as well. So, like, I tried, like, starting earlier this year, late last year, I started, like, deleting those apps from my phone in an effort to, like, not look at my phone so often. But even if I don't have those apps on my phone, I still notice that, like, I'll grab my phone, go on Google Chrome, go to CNN, and, like, I'll do that, like, every hour, even though, like, I'm looking at the same page continuously, or I'll check my email every 10 minutes just to, like, really, like, I pick up my phone just to pick it up, just to get distracted. Like, I'll look at the same information, like, every 10 to 15 minutes. It's like, I'll look at my email, look at Google, I might have Instagram download from time to time. I'll look at the Amazon shopping app. So even though I've gotten rid of some of those social media apps, I'm still struggling with not I guess, reaching for my phone every so often. So, like, when I think about it in, like, the Charles Duhigg's, like, habit structure, the Q is, like, looking at my phone.
I think the Q is boredom.
You think so? Okay.
That's because I was just sorry. Why don't you stay with what you believe the process is, and then I'll kind of give you my interpretation on it.
Sure. So I think as I look at it now, I think it's like, so for instance, when I go read, like, I try to, like, put my phone out of sight, because, like, sometimes while I'm reading, I might inadvertently grab for my phone and, like, look at it, which is not a big deal. I might look at it only for, like, a minute or two, but, like, you really want to yeah, I don't really like to like switch tasks like that. So like what really
Yeah.
helps me honestly is like if I leave it in the car or I'll put it in my backpack and I'll read for an hour and then after I read for my hour, finish my 40 pages, then I can go look at my phone. But like so
Gotcha.
as I was about to describe, I think for me I think this habit structure is like the cue is like I see my phone. This is how I understand that at the present time is I see my phone. Routine is I go through my phone, check the same things over and over again, and then the reward I thought was distraction. But I kind of want to get your
Gotcha.
feedback on that because I really want to like change it. I hate that I like grab for my phone so often. Like I really don't like that.
Yeah, that could be the case. I mean, obviously, so we're both kind of new to this, like analyzing habits like this. But I almost wonder if like your reward is like, or your cue is sort of like boredom,
Uh,
where your mind just starts shifting to other things, and maybe it just like you lose focus on the book or something, and
uh,
like you just kind of naturally go back to the phone,
hmm.
and then that reward is sort of like I don't know, like a little dopamine rush or something,
Yeah,
just from like opening it up.
true.
Because I kind of do the same thing with my phone. It sounds like I don't have. It's not as huge of an issue with me,
Hmm.
but definitely something I do. And yeah, like I have to do similar stuff to you where I just have to like put it out of sight. Or I notice that I just never do this when I'm like in the lab focusing on something,
Hmm.
and I have something else sort of distracting me. So it's like I don't know. Something else I've heard that might help with this is like meditation, especially like in the morning, just training your mind to just not have to be distracted all the time. But
Right.
I have to do a lot more research about that. That's way out of my depth, and I don't want to,
Yeah,
fumble with it. But that might be something to look into.
yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts now, and like I've listened to Sam Harris's podcast before, and then I listen to Joe Rogan,
Yeah,
and then there's this health podcast. There's a guy named Ben Greenfield. He's like a health and fitness podcast, and they all promote meditating
yeah,
as a really good activity, and that's on my list of habits that I need to start is meditating. Because yeah, like
cool.
again in the morning, I try not to reach for my phone, even if I don't have social media on my phone. I'll still like go on my phone, go on Google or something, and just do some random web searching in the morning. So
Yeah,
um, yeah, it's something I'm really trying to fight. Cause I'm trying to think of it like let's say the cue. Let's say that what if the cue is that I see my phone?
mm-hmm.
Because like we were saying, Charles Duhigg when he says you have to like rewrite a habit, like you don't change the cue, you don't necessarily change the reward, but you have to change the routine. If the
Right.
cue is
So
that
what would that new routine be?
exactly, yeah, if the cue is that I see my
Yeah,
phone, what
that's why I don't necessarily think that it's
seeing my phone.
seeing your phone,
Uh huh.
or at least that's not the whole. That's not the important part because it almost sounds like when he was talking about the girl who would always bite her fingernails.
Right.
It wasn't like when she looked at her fingers she would do it. It was like when she just get a bit bored.
Uh huh.
So,
Gotcha.
but
So it's,
I could be wrong.
okay.
It's interesting. I'd like to see how that develops over uh, the near future.
So while I was hope like so man, what am I saying? So let's say the cue is boredom. I mean,
Hmm.
I was honestly hoping to get your feedback on how I might like, I guess, change that habit of always like grabbing for my phone. Because like the only thing I could think of is like just not carrying my phone with me. Like if I'm
Yeah.
reading, let's say I go to a coffee shop in the morning, like literally like leave my phone in the car so that I can't reach for it. Or like
Hmm.
even at work, it was honestly like a problem at work too. Like there'd be some times where I would literally like I would, and this might have been because, again, as we've talked about privately before, like I didn't really like my job, so I much rather
Yeah.
prefer to like go on my phone and do some random web searching. But there'd be times at
Yeah.
work where I would like put my phone in a drawer and lock it away, such that like if I were to reach for it, there was like the extra, like the drawer was locked, so there's like the extra step I would have to go through to get it, and
You can
also
kind of
like
catch yourself.
exactly, and also like sometimes I really wanted to like leave it in my car, but I just didn't feel comfortable like not having my phone near me,
Yeah.
not near me for that long in case I got like a call or something from my parents or whatever. So anyway, I've thought about various ways to like get rid of this bad habit, and I'm still trying to work towards that.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I mean, I've kind of gone down your same route where I like delete apps, things like that. But it seems like you just have to find a routine that can like provide some stimulus, but is also meets your standards of being, productive in some way. But I'm not totally sure what that might be.
Hmm.
I have to think about that, but that's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
question.
Get back to me on what you think.
Yeah. Cool. So we're almost 2 hours in.
Man, yeah, it's
You're
crazy.
so yeah, Stefan. Afraid that we might not be able to reach an hour. Here we are, almost doubling that.
Yeah,
But this has been an awesome podcast. I feel like you distilled a lot of information, a lot of
cool,
useful information that I
cool.
know I can implement, and I'm pretty sure a lot of folks listening to that will be able to implement. And it's nice because you're like 26, my
Hmm.
age, and I feel like this will help like not only folks our age, but also like a lot of the young folks who may be starting college or finishing up high school or something like that, and just kind of in their daily lives. This is some. It's good to hear somebody talk about these different habits that they've sort of formed and how it's worked for them and how you can implement it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and like I said, guys, Stefan is leaving on Tuesday. So today is November 24th, 2019. He will be leaving November 26th, 2019 to go to Kenya with his
Hmm.
best friend Jamila
Hmm.
so that they can start a year long just traveling the world. So, Stefan, would you be open to tagging up? Maybe like once a month, something like that. Whenever you have internet, we can schedule something just to check in on you, figure out what you learned, pick your mind on some more things.
Yeah, for sure. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be kind of hard during the Africa portion because I'm not really sure
Yeah,
when we're going to have. I don't think I'll be able to plan out when we'll have Wi-Fi. But
gotcha.
outside of Africa, I think yeah, no problem. We can schedule a
Yeah,
podcast episode or
and
two.
and Jamila can join in as well. It'd be interesting to hear y'all's experiences, see what y'all have learned, because I've only been in the USA all my life, and I've never spent extended time in another country like you guys are about to do. So it'll be interesting to see like what perspectives you could potentially offer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Sound good?
sounds like a good idea.
Cool. Well, so I texted you earlier something, and it's uh, this quote by Theodore Roosevelt that from which this podcast is named after. And after every podcast, I plan to have this read out either by myself or the guest during the podcast. So, Stefan, would you like to read it out for our inaugural episode?
Yeah, sure. Let me see. Pulling it up. Okay.
Whenever you're
So
ready.
it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong the man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt.
There we have it, folks. That is the man in the arena, from which I've named my podcast. And I hope that serves to sort of add some more context to what this podcast is all about. Throughout this journey, we're all going to be men or women in the arena, duking it out with whatever issues we have and staying fast on our path towards self improvement. So, with that, thank you guys for watching. Stefan, thank you for offering up 2 hours of that your precious time, because I know you've only been back home for like a couple of weeks. So, I really appreciate you coming on, and we all wish you safe travels as you uh, embark on this journey. And hopefully, by the time we all hope that you have a new perspective on what you do. So we look forward to hearing from you again. And with that, signing off.